Hey guys. So today I wanted to go through the ending of a Dunstable motet for three voices. I was listening to this on the plane ride over here, and I was struck by the vitality and the feeling of the ending. It seemed to me a conscious flourish of virtuosity and feeling at the end of this piece, which was by and large simpler and more homophonic for the beginning of the piece. John Dunstable, if you don't know, is a great English composer. He's one of the first great English composers. A little bit after the era of Michaud, a little bit after the 1300s. Most of his life, he lived from, I think, let's check, 1390 something, 1390 to 1453. So he's still in the era of medieval music. He's coming out of that sound world, and you'll hear a lot of, his technique is medieval, but he also reached forward into the era of harmony by using triads, which made a lot of his contemporaries term his music sweet. That's one term we find in connection with him. His greatness is very likely. His work was believed to be extensively copied. A lot of it is missing. A lot of it was attributed to other composers. Things that weren't his were attributed to him. Like great composers, many great composers, everyone wants to be him, and people would just love it if other nice things were also by him. But it certainly testifies to his influence, the amount of manuscripts we have with bearing his name in some form in Europe and in Britain. So he was a big time composer, somebody definitely to be aware of. And let's take a listen to this section of this motet. So it's the ending. We'll get there a little bit, and I'll tell you when we're coming up to it here. There's one of those triads. Right here. Let's hear it one more time. It's right after this cadence. Yeah, so it's pretty cool. If you're like me, I was really struck by the mysteriousness, but also the clarity with which it slid into its cadence. It was like kind of an oblique way of approaching it, and I think I was expecting it dee da do dee to go there. It would be kind of a Phrygian cadence, but it wasn't that, and I should have known it wouldn't be that. And that in and of itself doesn't make it great, of course. So before I do this, I would just like to say that in no way am I suggesting I'm a musicologist and that my word is pretty much law on this. Certainly not. Please take it with a grain of salt and feel free to not take any of it at all. These are just the things that I heard personally in this, and it made me think about what I would, how I would add it to my own composition. So I thought I would share it, and I hope you get something out of it. So let us go to this ending here. First thing I noticed is this. Da 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 dee do da da dee da do do dee dee. That's the soprano line. First thing I noticed was that each line has a little germ of movement that defines it, and it kind of is obsessed with itself. It reiterates itself. And this goes on also throughout the piece. It's worth mentioning. And it kind of centers each of these lines in a particular movement. And in the case of the soprano, dee dee da 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 da, it's this upward rising thing. And here it goes up to a fifth, here it goes to a fourth, and then during the cadence it does admittedly change, but it creates very strong impression with these two sections here. Da 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 and da 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 da. So in the second line, in the tenor, it's this stepwise motion. Da da dee da, da da dee da, da da dee da. Da 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 do. So da da dee da da dee da 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 dee do dee. That's it. I'm not gonna be able to sing the bass now. I was too low there, unfortunately. What a shame. You were in for a real treat, but I can't. I'm not sure I can sing that. Anyway, to speak of the tenor, okay, it's this wheel motion, da da dee da 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 dee da. In the bass, it's similar to the soprano, except it drops down and then swoops up. So da do da 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 dee da do do da dee da dee do do. I can't sing that low C, but you see what I mean. Da 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 dee da 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 dee da dee do da. So dee da da dee dee da do da. So anyway, these things define each of the lines. They each have an identity based on that. Second thing I noticed, it seemed to me that one of the cool aspects of the cadence was how it felt like it was triangulated, like these things were just free cells spiraling toward this ending and looping, and the way it suddenly hit it was really striking to me. And here's what that is based on. Like Baroque music, tones, there are many different, in a good melody, there are different voices implied. And in this case, we go from G to F to E, D, and basically down to B, and then the A is kind of a passing tone to C. So it's this very clear motion that's going downward, but yet is approached by upward gestures. Da da dee da da do dee da do dee. And anyway, so it kind of triangulates, it kind of whirls its way down, if you see what I mean. And same with this. Basically, the articulated, I would define as the main, the outposts on this line are A, then maybe G if you'd like, but I don't think G actually at all. It goes basically A, F sharp to then finally resolves to G. So we recognize that D da da, that movement. That's basically what it is. But it circles around with this little micro gesture in between. Da dee da 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 dee da dee. In the bass, we have A, F, D, C. Very simple and downward. But again, it's this downward movement that is interspersed with these upward flourishes. So it creates the illusion of this maelstrom of like swirling, but in fact it's all pointed very carefully at one point, and it's pointed at this C. And we arrive there through this Landini cadence, which is very striking. And one of the reasons is two things. A, it is prepared with a augmented, what we think of as an augmented dissonance. I mean, if you play on a cluster on the piano, F, A, B, it in and of itself to me conveys a kind of mystery, something that's a little bit cryptic. Enigmatic. Enigmatic is a good word. So here we have that. We have F, A, and B. And this is justified within medieval musical craft. It's worth noting. They thought of music, as far as I understand, as alternation between perfect and imperfect consonances. And also they also conceived of dissonances, obviously. But things like seconds and sevenths in particular were not the forbidden no-fly zone that they became to even hitting them dead on as they became in later generations. So in Michaud and in Dunstable, for instance, you can find many moments of sevenths that are hit dead on and seconds, and this is one of them. It is a passing tone. These are passing, and it's really going to this. So anyway, there's that. That's the first step. And the cadence is fulfilled when it goes into that, when that this F, the reiteration of the F in the tenor and the bass here, finally becomes F sharp. And basically this F sharp is just a half step up from this F. So it feels like it slides upward and is chromatic. So it's this very oblique way. It kind of takes the place of that F. And the D is almost less important than that amazing F sharp. So, two things so far. The the fact that they all have this one gesture that defines them, this one movement, and B, that they are all triangulating this route very clearly towards C, and the fact that there's this dissonance that prepares the cadence and makes that F sharp really striking. It really made me think about new ways to make cadences colorful and final. And in medieval music, the way to make a cadence was going from an imperfect consonance, which would be like this, a six, a weak combination of intervals, a sixth, to a perfect one, say an octave. And this was one of the best ways to do that. So it sounds just incredibly strong because you're alternating. They had a real sense of strength and weakness in intervals. And it's just something worth thinking about and could be talked at far greater length than I just did and more accurately. Anyway, that's almost it. The last thing is something that if you have been studying music at all, you should know. Each of these lines have their own strong rhythmic pulse. Dee do da da do dee do da da dee da da do dee da do ee. Is very strong and very different from da da dee da da dee da do do dee do dee. They each just have so much of an identity, rhythmically and harmonically. They're just so defined. So anyway, those are just my take on this cadence, on this thing, and I'll definitely be examining the things that I was mulling over, and I hope you got something out of it. And thanks for listening.